Episode 2 of American Horror Story Hotel has finally landed, and this one feels different than the last episode in many respects. The first episode, the premiere episode, was based a lot on shock value, on the kind of introduction of new characters, and on the kind of stylistic approach of the new kind of series. I want to kind of showcase everything that it had to offer and kind of tease what was to come. What this does is it builds upon the foundation of the last episode and kind of delves more into the characters that were introduced last episode. It's a good episode, but it's a necessity, but it does seem like it's traded in shock value for a backstory, which is something I feel like they had to do. So if you're coming here looking for shocks, if you want the Drildo guy to come back, he does come back for like a split second, but he's not the selling point. This kind of episode's selling point is finding more about the characters and more about the hotel. So if that's your kind of interest, you'll love this episode. If not, it still serves its purpose to gear up for future things. It's a warm-up for what's to come. The chess pieces have been placed, but the game hasn't stopped yet. I imagine things will pick up narrative-wise very soon, and already they have in many respects, but I think it's really going to pick up soon, and we're going to find out a lot of things about the hotel, and a lot more things are going to happen at the hotel, because so far it seems very Beetlejuice-esque, in the sense that it's pranks, in a way. I know people die, but it doesn't seem like there's any urgency. It doesn't seem like there's any real danger. And I think that's because none of the characters we care about, none of the characters that are main characters, are in real danger. The only character who's at the hotel in danger, really, is Detective John Lowe. He's the only one in danger, because all the other ones are in cahoots. All the other characters are on the side of the afterlife, are on the side of kind of evil, and he's the only good guy, or the only sort of good guy. I think he probably is quite bad in many respects, but I think he's the only person who could be killed at the hotel, is what I'm trying to say. And he's the only person who people will care about getting killed. Random people are getting killed, nobody cares about them, they have no backstory. We shouldn't care about them, we don't have to, but we care about John Lowe. And I feel like he's the only kind of thing that's going to add urgency, it's going to add drama, it's going to add those kind of things to the show. That's the only thing that's going to make Hotel Cortez scary, is the possibility that John would go crazy, or that John would die, or that his daughter would go crazy, or his daughter would die. Now granted, this episode, and this series in general, is not just about deaths, it's not just about the hotel being dangerous, it's about the kind of psyche of the eternal residents, it's about the kind of inner workings of their mind and of the establishment itself. But I'm just saying that I think we don't really fear for anyone because there's nobody to fear for, because a lot of the characters are what you should be fearing. You can't fear for somebody who's a ghost or who's a vampire because they're evil. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but that's my theory anyway. I think if John becomes more kind of vulnerable, becomes more in danger as he searches through the hotel, then I think the stakes will be higher. But right now it is quite mellowed out, and it is just building upon the story and setting up things, as I said. What we're going to do this episode is we're going to kind of follow the same suit as last time, which is I'm going to do the prologue, mention the prologue in detail, and then I'll talk about each character individually and do it that way. It seems like a very good way to set things out, and it seems like it worked last episode, judging by the ratings. So, let's start with the prologue. We start this episode with another bed scenario. Not that one. I think I prefer the other one, actually. Anyway, Drildo Boy from last episode is doing his best Goldilocks impression. This one's too hard, this one's too soft, this one has somebody fucking living inside it. You know, the usual. So this guy, this second bit, Jared Leto, is being tied down by hypodermic Sally. And let me tell you, that's not as fun as it sounds. He's being kind of sewn into a mattress. Yeah, right, stay with this. He's being sewn into a mattress, much like the guy last episode. And I imagine he's going to suffocate her, and he's going to turn into some kind of monster. And he says, like, you lied. And she says, I know, I lied. He said you loved us, but I still lied. And then she kisses him. She kisses him for some reason. I mean, he gets his kiss out of it, so that kind of makes it okay. You're getting tied in the mattress, you're suffocating, you're stuck in an undead hotel, but you know, you get a kiss out of it by hypodermic Sally. So it's alright. Now, she's a junkie, it's well known, so hopefully he didn't get AIDS. That's just insult to injury. You're tied in the mattress and you get AIDS, but we'll just brush over that fact. Now, one thing I'm not sure about here is his mortality. He survived the dildo thing, and he's in this situation in the bed, and I'm unsure if he's still mortal or whether he's a ghost or what he is. I don't know if he'll make another appearance. If he does, it might be kind of a hint that he's undead now, that he's joined their ranks, or he might just be a mortal who's being tortured, a la the Swedish meatballs. They're still mortals, and they're being used as kind of blood bags in a way to feed the little children. So maybe he's following their kind of fate. Maybe he becomes a bigger player. Only time will tell. But for now, he's inside a mattress. He gets a kiss, and that's about all he gets really. Kind of jealous that he got a kiss, hypodermic Sally. But I seem to be the only person who's into dead junkies, so I'll be quiet on that front. Anyway, it pans down into the basement, into the neon no-no zone, as I like to call it, where you see the lonely Swedish meatball. She's lost her friend's dead, but she's still alive, barely, and she's being used as a kind of source of blood for the little kind of weird It 1 and It 2 emo year things. So that's fun. She's having the blood sucked from her kind of wrists in the kind of normal... Normal is a weird word to use in that situation, not normal. She's having blood sucked from her wrists in the kind of standard way that vampires do it. It's not normal, it's far from fucking normal. None of this is normal. So she's being kind of used as a blood bag. The children are eating her, and she's screaming out for help. And it kind of just finishes up her storyline, really. It has no real semblance on anything else. It just shows that they are indeed vampires, as I presumed last time. They're sucking her blood. And it shows that Kathy Bates' character is kind of in cahoots with the Countess and tries to kind of get her fresh blood so that she can kind of stay young, it seems, or stay healthy at the very least. Sally comes in, tells her to be quiet, and lo and behold, she dies. So it doesn't get much more quiet than being dead, let me tell you. The fact that there's vampires in this season is actually a good thing. I think a few people might disagree, a few people might think it's kind of not very imaginative, or it's been done before. But I think that it's a good route to go down. Like music-wise, at least, it's fucking awesome. You have like Tear You Apart, you have the Banshees, really good music this season, which sounds like a weird kind of compliment for a TV show, but it works really well. They use music in kind of a funny way and an interesting way. So yeah, if you like music, if you're into kind of gothic punk kind of music, then you'll enjoy the music in this show, and you might even get some new recommendations from the creators, which is always good. The fact that they're using vampires means they can explore different routes they haven't done before. With Horror House, they had ghosts. They've done that before, but vampires hasn't been done in the TV show before. It feels new, it feels fresh, but because the series, because Hotel is so similar to Murder House, it feels familiar at the same time. It's new and old in equal measure, and it really works. The kind of contrast between those two kind of aspects really complements each other, and makes it seem like it's familiar to fans, but new enough that it warrants being a new season and warrants its kind of existence, as kind of harsh as that sounds. Anyway, the Swede girl dies and is then thrown down a chute that seems to go on forever, and she arrives in a kind of dusty room. Doesn't sound too bad, does it? You arrive in a dusty room. It's not preferable, but it's alright. But hold on, there's other bodies down there. There's about fucking 12 of the cunts. I say 12, there's like 3, but, you know, there could be 12. You never know. Anyway, the bodies that are there look like they've been there for a while. They've got boils, they've got pus, they've got weird fucking aspects all over them. And it makes me think that they've been doing that for a while. They've been doing that for a while, granted, but they haven't cleaned up. They've got this maid who's been there forever, and yet she hasn't cleaned up the dead bodies. Oh no, she cleans linen, she likes her linen, she loves to clean linen, but she doesn't clean up dead bodies. Somehow I think her priorities aren't straight, because the smell of dirty linen can't be as bad as the smell of a 100-year-old corpse. I don't know from experience, but that's my guess. 100-year-old corpse stinks more than dirty linen. So how about you stop cleaning the fucking linen, pet, and you go clean the dead bodies up? Stick them in the garage or something, I don't know. But having them near the hotel, in the hotel, around the guests, isn't a good idea. You're gonna get complaints. I mentioned last episode, TripAdvisor, right? You ever seen the TripAdvisor kind of review saying, ooh, smell like dead bodies, ooh, had dead bodies, ooh, I got killed? No, you haven't, right? So, it's a wonder these guys have guests, to be honest with you, because number one, they're killing off all the fucking guests, and number two, they don't get rid of the killed off guests. So when new guests come that they want to kill, they'll just fuck off because it stinks. Do you know what I mean? It makes no sense. It makes no actual fucking sense to me. But I'm not a hotel manager, they are, so maybe, I don't know, maybe the smell of rotten corpses is a selling point. Who knows? Anyway, it's revealed that the Countess drinks her children's blood. So they drink the Swedish person's blood, then she drinks their blood. I don't know why she doesn't just cut out the middleman and drink the Swedish person's blood herself. But hey ho, there we go, we'll just roll with it. So she and Donovan drink the children's blood, because that's normal, that's what you do, I suppose. When you're a vampire, you drink children's blood. And she wants to go out and hunt, even though they just drank. They've just ate, and yet she wants to go out again. And he says, no, I want to watch House of Cards on Netflix. And she's like, no, I don't want a Netflix and chill, I want to hunt. She doesn't have no Netflix and chill. She doesn't have any fucking chill at all, actually. Netflix or otherwise. And she fucks off without Donovan, and goes to a lamppost factory type thing? I don't really know. She goes out to hunt for men to eat. Right, I understand that much. But why she goes to a lamppost place, I don't know. It's a square made of lampposts. Just random lampposts. If you live in America or LA, maybe you know what it is, but to me it just looks like lampposts in a square. So she goes to one lamppost square and she hunts men. And that's what it is. There you go. So that must be a spot. She likes lampposts. She likes architecture, maybe. But all the Countess seems to do this episode is just drink her own children's blood, which is weird, and then go to a lamppost square, which is even weirder in some aspects, and poor Donovan's left by himself to watch House of Cards on Netflix. Do you know what I mean? Just poor bastard. But that about does it for the prologue. So you've got the Swedish girl dying, you've got the guy in the bed being tied down and kissed, lucky him. You've got the Countess drinking the children's blood, and you got Donovan being left to watch House of Cards by himself. Not very good. But that's about it. Not a lot happened this prologue, but I think it's just a lot of kind of stylistic things, a lot of kind of just tying up loose ends from the last episode. Nothing major really happens in the prologue, to be honest. Not yet anyway. Maybe it does in the future, but for now the prologues have been pretty kind of Bob standard, little kind of side stories of characters that are unimportant. But I suppose they do show the major characters in a way. So like the guy in the bed shows what Sally does, shows her motivation. Because he was an addict, she's an addict, or was an addict, so she has motivation in that aspect. She wants to kind of stop him or punish him for being an addict because she herself is an addict. The Countess drinks blood because she can, really, because that's what she likes. Nothing really game changing in that much, but there is more to come. And let me tell you, even though the prologue didn't hold much kind of semblance, the rest of it certainly does. This episode, Sally seems to play a more traditional role in the whole scheme of things. She plays a kind of femme fatale type character, which pretty much equates to her leading Detective John astray most of the time and seducing him, or attempting to seduce him, throughout her time with him. One of the scenes that is the most important would be the one at the bar, where he relapses as an alcoholic and she just drinks to her heart's content. They talk about the fact that she's a junkie, the fact that she used to write poetry but nobody liked it, and the fact that Detective John is guilty about Holden, and they talk about his last case. Now, we knew about Holden, we knew about her being a junkie, that's not new news. His alcoholism is new, but not surprising really, and he does relapse, he does drink again, so maybe that'll have more impact later on, but for now it's minor. But his last case is something that's interesting to me, at least, because I had the idea that he might be the killer, or at the very least that he might lose his daughter and become crazy or kill himself as a result. And the case that he last worked on, apparently, is a family died, all but the father. The father came home, saw his family dead, and then shot himself. And I think that might be a hint at what's to come, maybe, because this is just a guess, I'm just spitballing, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing in terms of theories. What if his family's killed by the Ten Commandments killer and he kills himself as a result? It would link him with that. It would show that he's lost Colton, his son, and if he loses Scarlet, he'll be distraught. And it'll just show us kind of his destruction from that kind of fact. Another possible kind of theory, or another possible thing that would lead to that, would be that we know his son Colton is a vampire. What if Colton changed Scarlet to be a vampire? He would lose both his children, and I think that would be enough to kind of drive him to the edge. to do something crazy or to just change his character drastically. It's not to say that's going to happen, it's just an idea, but I don't know why they would show that case if it didn't hold importance to different scenarios throughout the kind of show. So comment below, let me know what you think, but as far as I'm concerned, that is kind of a plausible idea and something that could potentially happen. So Sally mentioned how she searched for the next high throughout her time being alive. She wasn't happy doing weed, she wasn't happy doing heroin, she wasn't happy doing different stuff, she always wanted to have like more and more and more. So that might be a commentary on why she went after that big guy with such fervour and such kind of angst, really. She also seems to want to trap Detective John Lowe in the hotel, which links in with the kind of Black Widow thing quite well and shows that she wants to trap everybody there. I don't know why. If she doesn't enjoy it that much, I don't know why they would, but she says come get lost, and he disagrees, because he has to do the case, he has to find his son, but the fact that she offered is something that deserves mention, and is something that might come into play later on as well. He might eventually kind of give up and ask to get lost in the hotel, and eventually kind of be stuck in the hotel forever. A few scenes pass and you're shown a party at the Hotel Cortez. It's like some kind of a weird Vogue fashion thing by the new owner. Sally tries to get in, but is declined because she's dead, really. That's one of the main reasons. She's dead, so she's not allowed in. She goes hysterical, she says she lives there. That itself doesn't deserve much note. If she goes crazy, what even if I can do about that? She is crazy. It could show that she wants to just be with people who she doesn't have to kill. It could just show that she wants to be important or be famous, because it is a Vogue kind of thing. She might want to be there because it's fame, because it's popular, because it's kind of fashion. So any of those reasons would really fit her character, I suppose. But the thing that deserves note in this scene is the fact that she sees Scarlett, John Lowe's daughter, and seems to have some kind of weird connection with her. And I say connection, but she sees her a little bit after that and proceeds to crunch her teeth. Not the little girl's, she crunches her own teeth until they're bloody and gone. She goes like, and her teeth disappear. What? Why? Why? And the kid sees it and fucking goes ballistic, understandably so. I saw my gran take her fucking false teeth out once. If she did that, I wouldn't let you go back, ever. But she crunches her teeth. That's the thing. The kid's distraught. And she says afterwards, I love kids. Like, what? If you love kids, give them candy. Don't fucking crunch your teeth in front of them. Christ. Do you know what I mean? It's not a very good party trick, especially for kids. But that seems to be all she does. So she puts a guy in a mattress. She talks to somebody at a bar. And she crunches her teeth. You know? Good stuff, good stuff. So I wasn't really focused on her this episode, in truth. It was more focused on John, more than anybody else, and I suppose the Countess and her various relationships. But still, there was stuff for Sally, so it deserved mention at least. The Countess is up to her usual tricks this episode. Fucking, then killing, then kill fucking. She breaks up with Donovan though, and it's after somebody else. I don't know why she broke up with him after only one episode. He must be terrible company, but we'll just brush over that fact. She's more interested in the new guy, Finn Wittrock. He's played by the guy who acted as Andy in the Freak Show series. He's a male model, he's like this weird punk guy, but he's an absolute twat. He's an absolute twat. He's like the Joffrey of this series. But she likes him for whatever reason. She says she likes him because he has pent-up rage or something, but there you go. So what happens is she turns him into a vampire, this Finn guy. Donovan disagrees, naturally, and she says that Finn's better than him. Finn was more erotic than him, her words not mine, and that Donovan has to move out tomorrow. So poor old Donovan. I think it's because he asked her to Netflix and chill. I mean, that's the last person who would ask to do that. You know what I mean? The line doesn't normally work anyway. I don't know why he would fucking ask that. I don't know why he just asked for a shag. Do you know what I mean? Be blunt. Don't just say like, do you want to come around and go fishing when you want your cock sucked? Just ask me. Anyway, he gets kicked out anyway. Anyway, Finn loves being a vampire from the get-go, but not for the reasons you might think. Not for the eternal life or the fact that he can eat people or kill people. He likes it because his acne's gone. If the Hotel Cortez doesn't work out, the Countess could always open up an acne clinic. Granted, the teenagers would need to kill to keep their clear skin, but it's probably better than Clearasil or Freedom or any of those cunts. So yeah, she probably has a chance of doing that. I'd rather do that than, you know, kill people and just put them down sheets. But it's her life. When she breaks up with Donovan, she also says that heartbreaks are what makes a person. Not the kills, not hit you a screw, but heartbreak's bigger and better. That's pretty much what she says. And apparently, in her eyes, she's doing it to make him a better person. So there you go. If you've ever been broken up with, it's because she wants you to be a better person. How nice. When she meets Finn, when she gets with Finn, she says like, you can only fall in love with me, nobody else. So she obviously gets off on being like the only person that they love, but then having multiple lovers herself, which is a bit of a weird scenario, but hey ho, there you go. He asks questions about her. He asks about past lovers. He asks about like how long she's been alive, and apparently she was turned in 1901. So she is pretty fucking old, even though she doesn't look it. And she says that guy who she was in love with, he broke her heart, or he died or something, and now she does the same to everybody else. So I suppose it's a kind of revenge thing, but it might just be a kind of a skewed vision she has. Because that guy turned her, she must dote on him or something, and because he's gone, she kind of just makes up for it with all these other people. But nobody will kind of fill that void. How romantic. Though granted, not every person who's broken up with goes around and drinks blood. Only some do. The last scene shows Finn and the Countess luring a kind of lumberjack person to the hotel and then kill fucking him. Now that was a kind of position that was secured for Donovan in the past, but it seems like Finn is taking over what he's done and is kind of a replacement for Donovan. He's new, he's more exciting, he's a model, he's got a jawline for days apparently. So yeah, Donovan's kind of kicked out and Finn is the new kind of the new fashion this month, I suppose. Whether or not there'll be a kind of physical conflict between Finn and Donovan, I don't know. Maybe she'll get a third lover and then Finn and Donovan will team up and try and take her down or something. I don't know, but I think there will be something within that kind of love triangle. It's not going to be pleasant. Now Mr. March might be a new character, but he's by no means a minor one. He created the hotel and was the first owner, but created it in a way that would accommodate his and his friends' needs. Those needs being the need to kill. He made the corridors lead to nowhere. He made doors that were cemented over so that when you opened them you would find that there's nothing there. And he made these weird kind of disposable chute things. So like you'd put washing down there normally, but what he did is he put bodies down there, and it didn't lead to like the washroom. It just led to an empty kind of basement where he could hide the bodies that he killed. Now again, I'm going to question this because killing all your customers isn't really the way to go if you want to make money. But I mean, the hotel's still around when we're in modern days, so maybe he did something right. You know what I mean? Maybe he just killed off the bad ones. Who knows? But he killed them. He tortured them. He even fucked their dead bodies, which is weird in and of itself. It's even as bad as the dildo thing. But he was a bit of a weird man. But eventually he got sloppy and he started killing outside of the hotel. Somebody phoned in, somebody kind of reported him to the police, and the police came knocking on his door. When they were about to come in, and when they were about to arrest him, he got out a gun, shot his maid, and cut himself in the throat so he died. Now his maid was happy to die because she was enamoured with him, she was in love with him, and even in the modern day setting she is still around as well as Mr. March. So they're obviously ghosts or undead or something, but they're both still around. She is constantly cleaning up messes that he created. She loved to clean out the blood for some reason. She was a bit fucked in the head, let's be honest, she still is. But I suppose everybody who works at the hotel is in some ways fucked up. But yeah, he killed himself to avoid prison. Now one thing of note is that he, at the time, was married to Lady Yargar's character, Countess Elizabeth. So if you're wondering who kind of turned him into the police, I would say that is a pretty good bet, and she probably did it to earn more power because she did become the eventual owner. So if anybody was going to turn him in, it would be her. Now there was a few scenes in the past with him. They were grayscale and they showed the hotel's kind of creation and him getting caught by the police and killing himself. But then we also had a scene in present day with Finn Wittrock, who I mentioned before, the male model. Now Finn was running away from the Countess and Donovan when he first met them, when they first tried to kill him, and he came across Mr. March in an empty room, and Mr. March then explained that killing was the best high and that cocaine and heroin didn't have the same effect. So it does seem like all the characters are searching for that high. As Sally said in the bar scene, she kind of kept climbing the ladder, tried to get higher, but eventually she fell. And with a lot of characters, it seems that is the case. Now, Mr. March didn't do drugs, but he did murder people, and that was his source of high. And eventually, he tried to chase that high so much that he fell off and eventually got caught. He got sloppy because he wanted it so much. And there's alcoholism, there's other things. They all have their vices, which is an interesting thing. They all have something that they rely on, which might just be a character trait of just anybody. Everybody has their vices, or it might be an intentional thing. It might be a kind of commentary of why they're there. They all have problems, they all have these things that they kind of rely on, and they're all chasing the next high. Something to think about at least. But anyway, Mr. March is about to kill a prostitute, and he offers to let Finn do the deed. Finn disagrees, and Mr. March gets angry and shoots the prostitute in front of him. He then removes his necktie, and it's revealed that Mr. March is indeed dead. If you didn't guess by the fact that he was alive in the 1940s, yeah, but yeah, he's dead. But he's still the same age, so he's obviously, I don't know, he's obviously as he was before he killed himself. Now, although Mr. March was just introduced this episode, I feel like he'll be a key player later on. He might even kill the Countess to kind of get revenge if she did indeed turn him into the police. He seems like an important character, and one too important not to have a big impact, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of effects he has on the story and the characters in the near future. Now, one thing to note is that Mr. March was spotted at the first crime scene that Detective John Lowe went to. Now, he wasn't shown outright, but there is a kind of scene where you can see his outline and you can see a bit of his face. So it might be a kind of hint that he is the killer, or it might be just some kind of metaphor or some kind of visual representation that the killer is indeed inspired by Mr. March, but not Mr. March himself. It could be Mr. March's kind of son, his great son. It could be somebody who just likes him, knows about the history. It could be anybody. But what is true is it is either Mr. March or somebody who is inspired by Mr. March and follows what he's done. Now, nobody really knows who that would be at the minute. It could be somebody from the hotel, although I'm not sure if the ghosts are bound to the hotel. So Mr. March leaving the hotel, I'm not sure that's possible. And you might say, well, he was at the crime scene. Well, yes, but it might just be a kind of artsy way of showing that the person's inspired by him. Do you know what I mean? It might not necessarily be him in and of himself. It might just be a signifier of what the inspiration was. It might be a signifier of things to come. It could be the maid. The maid was enamoured with him, so maybe she's carrying on his work. It might be the Countess, but again, I don't think she would have kind of done that. She eats them. She doesn't really torture them. So, you know, it's anybody's guess who it is at the minute, but there are a few kind of likely candidates. But it all depends on how the kind of ghost thing works. Can they leave the hotel? I don't think they really can. So it kind of means that we're at the same position as John Lowe at the minute. We don't know who it is. All we know is their motivation and their kind of inspiration. But Mr. March was a pretty big kind of focus this episode, so expect him to be a big focus later on as well. Now, this episode seems to be largely focused around John Lowe again, which is not a bad thing. I like his character. I think he's an interesting kind of person, and his kind of problems, his vices, his issues are all things that are interesting and believable in equal turn. His first scene's quite early on in the episode as the credits start to roll, the opening credits start to roll, and he's waking up in his room. He wakes up and there's the dildo guy above him shaking his dong, or his drill, whatever you want to call it, in his face. It's like a split second, but he's there. So that kind of signifies that Detective John has an addiction, because that is the addiction demon, it's been said. So his addiction, I think, is said in the bar. I think his addiction is alcoholism. So if you have an addiction, you get raped, which isn't really a fair deal, to be honest. I mean, if you're addicted to Skittles or Smarties, I don't know if that guy would come along. I don't know what you need to be I don't know how serious the addiction needs to be for him to be involved. Anyway, John wakes up, sees the dildo guy, rubs his eyes, wakes up a second time, and goes to the bathroom to wash his face. He hears something rustling behind the kind of shower curtain, and because he's an idiot, he thinks, oh, let's have a look. Opens the shower curtain, and there's two corpses having sex. Yeah, two corpses having... It's Hotel Cortez, isn't it? I don't know if they are corpses, they're like fucking swamp people. Like they're escaped off the set of The Hills Have Eyes, but they're having sex, which is what the most important thing. And one of them sticks their hand out and invites the detective to come and join them. I wouldn't join them, to be honest. I wouldn't join them. I have standards. I have low standards, mind you, but not fucking that low. Corpses is where I draw the line. Anyway, he sees Holden again, the little albino Holden, and he chases him throughout the hotel. Now, one thing to note is that this kind of sequence was very well shot. It seemed very Shining-esque, very kind of purposely amateur. that there was long shots of him walking down corridors from the other end, and there was different things that seemed to take note from The Shining. I keep mentioning The Shining, but I think this series is inspired by The Shining quite a lot, even stylistically at least. So yeah, he runs around, he tries to find his son, and eventually comes to the bar scene, which I mentioned with Sally. He opens up about his guilt, he opens up about his problems, and Sally opens up about a few things in her life as well. They have somewhat of a connection, but he pulls away at the last minute when she says that he should get lost with her. Now, getting lost, I think, just means staying in the hotel forever. Sort of, it might be a kind of hint at drugs as well. It might be a kind of give in to your addiction, like I did, give in to your addiction and just become an alcoholic forever, do you know what I mean? So it could be getting lost in the physical sense of being in the hotel, or it could be getting lost in the kind of sense of addiction as well. You don't really know, but it could be one of those two things at least, and both of those two things are quite similar in essence. If you do give in your addiction, you will be there, no matter what, and if you do stay there, well, you are there in essence, do you know what I mean? Either way, it was a bad thing to do. He pulls away. I think the only thing that was making him pull away was the case, and perhaps the fact that he keeps seeing his son. If he didn't keep seeing his son, and if his family had truly kind of left him, he would have just gave in and followed Sally to wherever she fucking took him. The bar scene's very Silent Hill-esque. I think that's just the music that was making me think that, but it does have an underlying kind of creepiness factor to it, as most of these things do. But I think that she was trying to kind of lure Detective John to go with her, and then she would get the drill thing involved if he did give in to his addiction. But that does kind of rely on the fact that she was trying to get him to be an addict again, and she wasn't just trying to get him lost in the hotel. The next scene is at his police firm, and he's talking to his companion about the case, about the different things that are going on, and he finds out he's been given a package from Hotel Cortez. He assumes that it's a bomb, and gets the bomb's brought in. They all check it out, and it turns out that it's not a bomb. It is indeed a kind of award. I don't know what you would call it. I think it's a Golden Globe or an Oscar, but yeah, he's shown that, and it's not a bomb, but it is a murder weapon. The Golden Globe is covered in blood. He sends it to forensics, then they'll check it. Now, I imagine there'll be a kind of information about that next episode, but for now, that's as far as that kind of little tidbit went. As to who sent it, my bet is with Sally, because she told the detective about her failed career as a kind of musician. So it could be a sort of a hint that she did it. It could be a sort of hint that it was her kind of ironic way of showing him evidence, or it could be a way of showing that she did the murder. It would be pretty stupid to tell him that information and then send him a murder weapon that pins you into that situation, but I don't know. It's anyone's guess as to who did it, but Sally is my guess at least. Again, it could be somebody who tried to frame Sally as well, somebody who knew about Sally's past, and somebody who was close to her. Maybe Donovan. Donovan was close to her, and she did indeed cause Donovan to die, so he would have a reason to try and get her killed, or double killed, I suppose. She's already dead, so he'd try and get her double killed, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what happens. How do you kill a ghost? I need Ghostbusters in this. The next scene is a party at the hotel. It's like a Vogue fashion party, and he wants to leave, admittedly, but his daughter wants to stay, so he lets her go away with the new owner's son. Now, there's not much information on the new owner yet. Again, he's just a minor character. He's just somebody who's in the background. He's setting up a party here, and that's about all he does, really. Maybe he has more of an impact later on, but for now, he doesn't do anything. He's just a fashionista. He's in Vogue. That's about all I can say, really. But his son is the person who's kind of important in this kind of sequence of scenes. His son and Scarlett, Detective John Lowe's daughter, go into the basement, and the boy wants to show her something. I assumed it was going to be some kind of weird underage sex thing. Thankfully it wasn't. It was him showing her her dead brother, which is almost as bad in many respects, I suppose. He shows her her brother in his little kind of weird coffin bed, and he says, "Oh, don't worry, they won't wake up." He taps the glass, and lo and behold, little bastard wakes up, doesn't he? But the important thing here isn't really the scare factor, isn't the fact that the little kid's in the coffin, it's the fact that Scarlett now knows her brother is indeed around the hotel and somewhat alive. She goes around, tries to kind of run back, and eventually gets back to her father, albeit in a very scared state. But she becomes more curious than scared over time, and eventually goes to try and find her brother again. She sees him in the video game room and tries to convince him that he was abducted, tries to convince him that his family want him back, and all those different things. He doesn't believe her. He says he's already home, and he says that he doesn't know who the family is. She tries to take a picture with them, a selfie, but he doesn't take too well with that because he tries to bite her fucking neck. She notices and she fucking legs it, and then later on she soon realises that the picture she took shows him as a blur, showing that he is a vampire. Now that is a kind of clear indication, but maybe not to everybody else. That's not the first thing you would think in that kind of real life scenario. Oh, he's a bit blurry, he must be a vampire. But you know, it's what I think anyway. Vampires aren't normally seen in mirrors, but I think they've made this a kind of modern day reinterpretation. So instead of mirrors, it's photographs, which works more. There's not that many mirrors around the place, but photographs kind of works to show that he's a vampire and reinforce that fact. But it's not trying to tell us that he's a vampire, it's trying to tell Starlight that he's a vampire, and trying to tell his parents too. So not information for us to digest, it's information for the characters to digest, so that they know more about the situation. As a result of seeing the photo, John then goes back to the hotel once again, and this time goes to interrogate Kathy Bates' character. He starts off very kind of buff, very kind of angry, but eventually kind of subsides and buys her a drink. And she offers to tell him about the hotel because he bought her a drink. She says all the things about Mr. March, about how the hotel was made by him, about how he was a torturer, about how he killed himself, all those things I said already about Mission March. And eventually, when she's finished the story, in true X-Files Scully manner, Detective John Lowe calls bullshit. He says he doesn't believe in ghosts and ghouls. Real people can cause enough trouble as is, but obviously soon enough he's going to find out that this is all about the undead, and that he's kind of the centerpiece of this whole scenario. But he goes back to his police station and he finds out that the Ten Commandments killer was indeed inspired by Mr. March and is indeed a religiously kind of motivated killer. His colleagues don't believe him at first, but then eventually they do kind of follow up the lead, and that's when the episode ends. For him at least. And that's when the episode ends, at least for him. So that's all I have to talk about this episode. Try to keep it somewhat short and concise. That said, it's been running for about 50 minutes. But yeah, a lot of kind of backstory, as I said, a lot of things to gear the story forward in the future. But as of now, there's not that many things to do with this present episode. It's all gearing up for more to come. I think the next episode will be a lot of payoff for what's been happening, and there should be a bit more weird stuff in the next episode if that's what you're into. That said, there was necrophilia, there was the dildo guy, and there was Sally crunching her teeth down. So I mean, if you're wanting weird stuff, you've pretty much already fucking got it, you know what I mean? You've got your fair share, but if you're wanting more, I'm sure there'll be more. All in all, I liked this episode. I liked knowing more about the hotel, and I liked finding out about its kind of origin story, but I would like to see more stuff about the present, and more stuff about the characters who we're already caring about, not more introduced. We've had Finn, we've had Mr. March, but for now I'd like to build upon what we already have, and try and flesh out existing characters, if at all possible. My worst fear is that they introduce too many characters, and you become so kind of overcumbered, and so kind of confused, that you stop caring. That is a real danger, but hopefully they're aware of that when they were writing their story, and they were aware of that when they were filming it as well. In conclusion, it's good. It's a good series, the best series so far of American Horror Story, in my opinion, and I look forward to the next one. Tell me what you thought of it below. Did you like the change of pace? Did you like the more backstory? And did you like it in general? Enjoy your stay at the Hotel Cortez. Your room is number 64. I actually got it right this time.